that?
I said we'll give it a minute.
Okay.
We're not live. We're recording. All right, it is 5 o'clock. I'll call the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. We'll begin with the roll. Alder Lefebvre.
Here.
Alder Decker.
Here.
Alder Perella.
Here.
Alder Feldy. Do we have anybody online? Okay. Alder Feldy is unexcused. Mitchell's here. We have a quorum. Will you all please join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, then, barring objections, I won't single out anybody in the crowd who looks like they're probably not participating in the meeting and make us go through the introductions. And jumping over item number 4, seeing no objection, we'll move on to item 5, which is approval of the minutes from the December 9th meeting. Is there any discussion on those minutes? If not, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Minutes are approved. Next up is item number 6, which was RO number 84 of 2425, submitting a claim from Mercy Yang and Stephen Vu for alleged damages to a vehicle when it struck a loose sewer hole lid.
Good evening. If you can bear with me for a moment, usually somebody else handles this. So I'm looking at the quick to see if it was approved or denied. So bear with me just a second. Based on the notes here, the claim was denied, so this would just be for filing.
Any comments on this one? We are open to questions as well, but normally those will go to a representative from the attorney's office, which we do not have present.
Right.
If there are any questions, I can make sure to have them follow up.
If there is no discussion, we'd be looking for a motion to file here.
I make a motion to file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for filing. Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it and the motion passes. That item is filed. Next up is item 7, which is resolution number 134 of 2425, a resolution confirming the final allocation for expenses utilizing American Rescue Plan Act funds to pay for various eligible capital projects, and authorizing the finance director to complete a 2024 budget amendment with associated anticipated costs. I like the alliteration.
Thank you. So this item, I'm bringing forward more of a reference document to kind of tie the bow on our ARPA spending. So this actually put it into, if you recall from last Finance and Personnel meeting, there were a couple, or the radios were on that agenda that got approved in order to spend the last of the ARPA funding. So in order just to have a document on file that shows exactly everything that was spent through the American Rescue Plan, we put this document together for just a record.
Questions or comments? Alder Perella?
So this includes everything from the ARPA funds?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Can you tell me more about how do you came up with, what is the room tax losses that we covered with these ARPA funds?
Sure. I will say that portion of this took place before I was involved in ARPA. It was done by a previous director. So I have a little bit of information on that, but I can follow up if you have additional questions. But my understanding is they looked at a trend of the room tax collections that were done in previous years, and they determined what was collected, kind of did the net amount of that, and made sure that the room tax commission got their portion, and then the city got their portion, which is a 70%, 30% split.
Any follow-up on that? Alder Decker?
Just one quick, I see that the transit is not in there. Do they have their own separate budget for their ARPA, or is that how that?
That is correct. Theirs is actually through the CARES grant, CARES Act grant. So yes, theirs is completely separate from this money.
Okay.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yeah, Alder Perrella.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just a little bit at a loss with that room tax losses. So when we had the ARPA funds now, and we allocated to those, but it could happen that we don't have those funds, so then we wouldn't have we wouldn't have funds available for that purpose, right? I'm sure that it happened before already, that we had some room tax losses, right?
So I would say that generally speaking, if there was a decrease in room tax, it could fluctuate for sure. So a year could be less than expected, but because COVID was such a significant event that closed hotels or did not allow for the use of those hotels, that was the initial reasoning for this purpose. So under ARPA, lost tax, lost revenue, and additionally support to the tourism type entities was an acceptable use. So that was a decision, like I said, made right before I started.
Yeah, and now I realize, of course, it was COVID time. I have just one more question, if I can.
Sure, let me just give a little more background on the last one.
Yes,
'Cause I
please.
was not chair, but I believe I was still on committee at the time that decision was made, and what Director Krieger said is accurate. It wasn't so much to account for the fluctuation in year tax, that's your room tax, that is natural year over year. It was specifically because there was a
Right.
notable drop in
Yeah.
the time that COVID was keeping things closed, where people still were not traveling because of it. So more of a one-time, let's try to keep that ship somewhat floating rather than something that we would be looking at year over year moving forward.
Absolutely. I guess I already put COVID in the back mirror to the point that I can't even remember that, right?
Understandable.
But I have one more question about the affordable housing general gap grant, 2 million. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure, there were a couple affordable housing projects. You can actually see 3 additional ones on the next page. So they were, and actually the Jacob Hall demolition above that too. So there were projects within the city that got approved throughout that time. So I believe I could find out, if you give me a moment, the exact location of the Gen Cap one. But they were apartment complexes that got offset revenue or offset from this grant. If you give me a minute, I can find which one Gen Cap is. Again, these were items that were kind of in the works before I started here.
I remember the name General Capital, but which development it was.
I believe the General Capital, or Gen Cap as it's listed on here, is the former Capsule property, if that helps. So that was a grant from here to make sure that there was affordable housing placed on that property.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion on this item? If not, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
And I'd like to confirm that we're approving this and not filing, just so it is on the record.
Yes, I would say approval is fine.
Okay, just making sure. Since we have a motion and a second, and seeing no further discussion, then all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. That one is approved. That takes us to item 8, which is resolution number 137 of 2425, a resolution authorizing entering into a pre-development agreement with Cherry Faith Properties LLC regarding construction of mixed-use development on the property located at 1512 North 17th Street.
Good evening. This is just a pre-development agreement. The city does not currently own this property. We're working with the landowner. If the city moves forward with a pre-development agreement of working out the potential of a purchase of that property, we don't know if we'll be able to or not, but this is a project. This particular developer kind of specializes in adult housing for developmentally disabled. So what they're looking at would be a mix of market rate apartments mixed in with adaptable housing for folks that are disabled. So so it's not just all adaptable housing, but it's a mixture of it. So in their proposal, they're looking at some commercial spaces that would kind of help support those folks in their efforts to be independent. And then also we have them working with some folks on potentially partnering for providing services at the location as well.
Questions or comments on this one? Alder LeFave.
Okay, first of all, I have an elder brother who lives in a facility somewhat that this would be serving. So I really do approve of that idea. But I would like to know exactly what is in that property, 1512 North 17th Street currently? Is it two residential houses?
No, it's a vacant parcel.
It's a vacant parcel.
Yep. So there's Vistacare owns the property.
Okay.
And so they developed some apartments on the southern end of the property, but about half of the parcel is completely vacant.
Funny you said Vistacare.
What is that?
Because that's where my brother lives in
Okay.
property that they have in Ootsford called Minnesota House.
Okay. Yep. So I'd say something.
So I'm very
probably
familiar
similar.
with the services they render, and they're excellent.
Yes. Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Alder Perella.
I meant no.
That was a no.
Thank you.
Got it. It's almost Christmas. All right, then, if there is no further discussion, we'd be looking for a motion to approve on this one.
Yes, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. That one is approved.
Thank you.
Next up is item 9, which is resolution number 140 of 2425, resolution authorizing the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order for the purchase and installation of an automated material handling system for return materials at Mead Public Library.
Thank you. This item is brought to you this evening by the library director. He couldn't make it tonight, so I'm speaking on his behalf. I did check in with him this afternoon, or this morning, I should say, and the system that is currently in place is becoming non-functional, so that is why they're looking at replacement. They are planning on using fund balance to cover this expense.
That answered the only question I had. Is there any discussion on this item? Alder Perella?
Yeah, I just want to say that I love the enhancement. I just would be curious to know, and perhaps I will have a chance to ask those questions about how it will really work. I read the documentation, but I would love to understand better what is the enhancement in itself, how it works now and how it will work then. And I also would be curious to know how much is the total. I don't know that there was the total here. I know the whole project total.
I believe it's the 272.
So that is the total,
I believe so.
which means that is not what the city is going to.
Correct. That is actually within the library fund already. So it's money that the library has set aside.
So is there a balance at the city? Is there an expense for the city in addition to what the library is going to contribute to?
I do not believe so, no.
Oh, okay, very good. All right, thank you.
I guess just a quick follow-up on that. I did manage to come up with just one question. The only reason this is coming to us is to authorize the purchasing agent to be the conduit through which the transaction is handled, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions,
Yeah.
comments?
Okay. No.
If not, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. That one is approved. Takes us to item 10, which is resolution number 141 of 2425, a resolution amending the 2024 budget for various expenses incurred or planned.
Thank you. This item, of course, we're getting it in at the last meeting of the year. So these are items that have come up since our last budget amendment that I brought forward that would just at least make more sense if we put through a budget amendment to cover ourselves on the expense side. So I'm happy to answer any questions with specific line items.
Any questions on this one? Comments? If not, we would be looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. That one is approved. Takes us to item 11, which was a direct referral of resolution number 143 of 2425, adopting a citizen participation plan, which is required when funds are required from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Community Development Block Grant Program.
Thank you. This item is brought forward because, again, as it is required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This is related to our CDBG funding. Every 5 years, we're required to do a full consolidated plan. We're working on the plan that's years 2025 through 2029. And so this is ahead of the approval of that. We have to have a participation plan for the public to get engaged with that plan.
Any discussion on the plan? Alder Perla.
So is this plan, is the new plan going to be different than the previous plan?
That is to be determined, I suppose. Every stakeholder that we come up with through the plan is going to be contacted. So a lot of the agencies that have received funding through the CDBG program, stakeholders even within this building or the city, such as department heads, will be asked about if there are projects that could fall within the parameters of the HUD funding or CDBG funding. Additionally, just general citizen participation as well. So based on that feedback, there could be changes to the consolidated plan, or it could end up being similar or the same. So it's still to be determined.
Will that plan come back to us? I mean, in addition to the next Common Council, will they come back to us?
Yes, so this is just the participation piece for the public. So the actual plan will come forward to this body, and there's actually a couple public hearings that also have to occur before that happens.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, we would be looking for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. That one is approved. Takes us into our last item, number 12, which was a direct referral of resolution number 144 of 2425, authorizing Kristen Fish Peterson of Redevelopment Resources LLC to act on behalf of the mayor as a certifying officer for the issuance of environmental reviews related to the HUD Community Development Block Grant Program.
All right, so in the past, we've had staff that held that designation, and council needs to designate someone other than the mayor if they're going to allow somebody else to do it. In this case, we've brought in Kristen Fish Peterson from Redevelopment Resources to assist with kind of cleanup of the CDBG program, and also to help in the creation of the consolidated plan as we're going through. All of the different groups that we work with, environmentals are required to be done, and we do not have a certifying official. Obviously, under CDBG, the mayor can sign, but he doesn't have that expertise. So Kristen has volunteered that she'll sign off on those as she's familiar with them and does them with other communities around the state as well. So she's willing to help us out until we get somebody back into the position and has the expertise to actually sign off on those and do the reviews and make sure they're done properly.
Questions or comments?
Just one
Alderperla?
brief one is this due every year, the audit, the review?
The consolidated plan?
No, the actual review, the environmental review for the CDBG project.
These are done for every project. So every time a project application comes in, that's part of that process. So like we just did that one with partners, Diane was signed off on that before she had left. Going forward, we don't have anybody that can sign off on project applications as they come in and do that review. So the process that we've set up is kind of having Kristen handling all the CDBG and the staff working with her on their work plans and how they're kind of tackling things moving forward. So ultimately, it's all funneling through Kristen already, the way we set it up temporarily. So we'd like to just continue this so she can sign off on it and staff can focus on kind of that learning curve that they're going through and helping her getting everything organized.
And this applies only to CDBG projects, not any to, I mean, the environmental review is for any time that we have a development like the one that we were talking about with partners, for example. It does not apply, it's not.
It would apply there.
Right, it would apply
Yep.
there, but it doesn't apply to other funds of the CDBG, to
The ones that require it, so the ones that third-party groups are expending money, there are times that there's a requirement that environmental is done there as well. So the current process had been that Diane would sign off on those
I
and
see.
predecessors would sign off as well. So it all kind of depends on how they're using the funding and what they're using it for.
Right.
We have to have a certifying official that reviews them to make sure they're in compliance, because then we're certifying back to HUD that it's done appropriately.
Sure, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other discussion on this item? Alder Lefebvre?
So we are currently in the process of trying to find somebody to take these responsibilities on full-time?
Yeah, so traditionally it's been the director, and we're working with Bold Path Consulting on coming up with a structure that would be more appropriate. They've interviewed all the employees in the planning department, some in the zoning department, to try getting a better understanding of workload and how job duties are currently distributed and how the project is managed. So we're working through that now.
And how is that process going currently?
It's an interesting process right now. A lot of things, we knew there were some issues in the management of the CDBG program. To what extent, I think we're really discovering that now. Kristen was ultimately brought in. I'm looking at kind of changing how we manage CDBG given some of the issues that we found, and better utilizing our finance department, because one of the things that we've discovered is the finance department was kind of not in the loop of ensuring compliance on the fiscal side of things. So in this whole process, we brought Caitlin and her staff in and asked that they would start taking over the fiscal side of things. I have met with the entire HUD office out of Milwaukee, met with all their staff, kind of explained what we're trying to do, and they're in agreement with it. It's just, as we got into it, tying out financially, Caitlin doesn't have a lot of expertise with the CDBG program. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
So she asked if we would potentially have had any resources that could come help. And Kristen manages this for a couple different communities in the state of Wisconsin. So we reached out to her and asked if she'd be willing to help. So that kind of started the relationship on how we were looking at redesigning the program to ensure our compliance and doing our fiduciary responsibility as the grant administrators. And then that kind of evolved into what Bold Path was looking at on the structural side of, how do we have workloads balanced out? How are we managing the program? We did get an alert very soon in the process from Bold Path of a grave concern that he identified in his one-on-one interviews about essentially the lack of administration of the CDBG program. So we're diligently trying to address that, and this is one of the components of that.
Okay, that explains a lot. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments on this item? If not, we would be looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. That one is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That is the end of our last regular meeting in this calendar year. The next scheduled meeting will be on January 13th. And with that, we have exhausted our agenda and are looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye, as well as everybody a Merry Christmas and a thank you to those who are here on perhaps not the best night to be attending a meeting. The ayes have it, and the motion is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everybody.